Hi folks, welcome to the Cannabis Corner. I'm your host, Kerry Burns. Yesterday on the CNBC last night, they ran a documentary titled Marijuana USA, and I was going to do an in-depth rediscussion tonight about some specifics of the Controlled Substance Act and why we need to get cannabis off the scheduling altogether. But we're going to save that episode for next week, because after watching this video last night, I just had to devote this entire episode to that. Now, there were a lot of good things on this video, particularly the cannabis plants that they showed growing and some of the buds that they had harvested. They were absolutely beautiful, and from that part of the video, I thought it was very well done. They had a young girl that was the sort of the host for the documentary last night, and it seemed like every question she asked of the different people, whatever specific matter they were talking about, it's like that this is the first time she'd ever heard of this, you know. And it's, you know, like, do you think that if they legalize cannabis, that there will be a bunch more people out there smoking and all that? I mean, it was sort of followed that sort of lines, and I thought that was kind of dumb. But one of the things about this video that really got to me, and I say this because they're so hung up on this medical marijuana. Now, they did show all of the different dispensaries in Colorado, and they were mainly focusing on Denver in that area, but they showed all the different dispensaries and how certain groups of the ones that ran the dispensaries, they had so-called farms that they were growing set number of plants for certain number of patients and stuff like that. And from that point of it, when you look at it, you could kind of get a glimpse of what it could be like if we had cannabis legal. But unfortunately, in this video, all of the information, all of the numbers, everything was based on an illegal market. And even one of the fellows that was in charge of making sure that the growers were in compliance, to make sure that they didn't, and they said, here's what they do. When you set up a grow operation, they set up video cameras that are piped in straight to the city powers that be there in Denver, and they monitor your grow room. And that way you can't bring in one extra plant, you can't have, you know, they make sure that you're not snipping off the top and stuff like that. And I think this is just absolutely insane. I mean, the fact that they would go to this kind of extremes, these sort of costs and all that's going to do is drive the price up and make these ridiculous figures that they're going right now with this illicit market price even higher. People, when you legalize cannabis, the days of $20 a gram cannabis are over with. I'm sorry, and I appreciate all the growers out there, all of the efforts that you've gone through, and all the different varieties and things that you've brought about and stuff from different crosses and stuff. But when cannabis becomes legal, you're not going to be able to get this $20 a gram price. First of all, there's going to be a bulk of the people out there that are going to be able to grow their own. So you're going to lose that market altogether right in the front. And if any of them happen to grow more than they actually consume in a given period of time or during the growing cycle of that plant, whether they're doing it under lights or naturally outside, they're going to be looking for a market to sell that to or share with some of their friends. And the more that's shared or sold by them, the less it's going to be bought from these so-called grower co-ops. And so I think the people out there really need to get realistic. And California is the same way, Oregon too, probably all of them, but you need to get a little bit more realistic about the price on this cannabis when you go into this legal market. You're not going to be able to get this $300 to $400, $500 an ounce, no matter what the strain is. And the seeds, I mean, they showed a nice looking young lady that was, her job was she was going around selling seeds to the different growers and stuff. Great job, new job opportunity, something different. But the problem about it was she sold a dozen seeds for $100, and it ought to be 100 seeds for less than $12. I mean, and that's what it will become. And it won't matter what the variety that you decide to grow, what percent THC you're after, what flavor you're after, what cosmetic, whatever particular variety you decide to grow, the seeds are going to be as cheap as the cannabis, because the more that's being produced, the price is going to come down. And that's the fallacy of the illicit market right now. And that's why you have formation of gangs and people down along the Mexican border and stuff that aren't afraid to kill for it, because they're making a lot of money on it. And and if I had one of the guys that was in charge in the Denver city there that made sure that these people stayed in compliance, he actually said, "Oh yeah, I mean, see, this is so much better here. We're taking care of all these sales and stuff, and that way the cartel can't." I mean, he can't even realize that we're just trading one cartel for the other if you keep that price like that. And that's where it's going to be the biggest change, is the price. And this is going, and it's not going to be a bad thing. You know, I understand you people right now are making money hand over fist, and that this marijuana card that they charge you to get medical marijuana is $135, and you have to renew it every year, and that requires going to get another visit to the doctor and paying him more money and all that. This is absolutely insane. For 40 years, people like myself have been using cannabis for whatever good benefit it brings, medicinally, socially, industrially, whatever. We have been pushing for 40 years for this plant to be taken off the Controlled Substance Act, to be legal and all that. And doctors who notoriously in the past have never given even anything about herbal remedies or even promoted them. In fact, they scoff at them. They say not to take them and all that. These very doctors now, so that they can see that this is a way for them to make money, they're going to try to take over this. This is wrong. It narcotizes the cannabis, which is an herb. It's not a narcotic drug. This isn't something that was synthesized in a laboratory or made by some giant pharmacology company or something that sells prescription drugs. This is a natural herb, and the product we use is in its natural form. It's the dried flowers that occur on this plant that we smoke. And so for them to just donate all of this effort and everything just to the medical marijuana so these doctors can prescribe it is absolutely about as bogus as the day is long. I'm going to tell you that people like myself would rather see the cannabis stay illegal if we had to expose ourselves to the germs and stuff inside a doctor's office to go in there to get a prescription for a cannabis herb that we can produce ourselves. You had this lady, she was a medical scientist at Columbia University doing the studies on whether medical marijuana actually had any medicinal values and stuff. And she says, well, you know, just people out there saying, oh, it helps the pain and all. I'm sorry, those numbers aren't good for me. I have to actually see raw numbers of, you know, giving placebos to people versus giving them the cannabis, and really do see some scientific approach. And I say to this woman, you are an idiot. What is wrong with you? You could not have a bigger test experiment ground going than the 50 million people who smoke cannabis every day and have been doing so for the last 40 years. You have a perfect experimental laboratory right there in reality. None of those people have ever been harmed by this substance. Many of them use it for all sorts of ailments, and it's not just for medicinal use. It's recreational use. No kidding, we use it for recreational use. 10,000 times safer than alcohol, which takes down over 100,000 people a year. If you combine it with cigarettes, it's over 500,000. That doesn't even include the drunk drivers. Of course we're going to use it for recreational use. It's safe. It's an absolute safe herb that you can't overdose on. You'd have to consume 1,500 pounds of cannabis herb in 15 minutes to get to a lethal level. And this is absolutely just impossible. I don't care how big your pipe is, how big the bowl is, you're not going to be able to smoke 1,500 pounds of cannabis in 15 minutes. I doubt you could smoke 1,500 pounds in your lifetime. And the biggest joke of all of this, they're basing all these numbers, all these tax revenues and stuff on this illicit market. Not one mention of the hemp industry and this trillion-dollar industry that is just waiting to take off. 50,000 different products can be made from this plant. And you look at all the different jobs that this is going to generate. Yes, we're going to have seed salesmen for the cannabis. No kidding. We're going to have cannabis pluckers. We're going to have cannabis growers. We're going to have hemp makers. We're going to have paper makers. We're going to have plywood makers, people growing the hemp, people harvesting it, doing the retting, the processing. There's going to be thousands and thousands upon thousands of jobs available. A brand new industry that hasn't seen the light of day in this country for a long, long time, except for a brief period during World War II and prior to the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act. This is a fantastic thing, and the revenue is not to be made on the cannabis. All of the numbers y'all are generating, the young couple that had their farm, and boy, they were talking about how much, you know, this is the new industry and how successful we're going to be with this and all. People, the numbers, the profits, the amount of dollars and stuff that you're basing everything on, you're basing it on an illicit market. That's not going to continue. If it was going to continue, I promise you, people like me would rather see it stay illegal. You're putting way too many constraints on something already that it shouldn't be. It needs to be opened up to free market. If you're going to require the cannabis smokers to be issued a card that they have to pay $135 a year to walk into one of these dispensaries to buy cannabis, then you should also require somebody that wants to drink alcohol or buy cigarettes, they should also be required to get this card and pay the $135 a year. It's no different, except there is a big difference. Theirs kills people. Cannabis herb doesn't. So if you're going to put this restriction on the cannabis user, the one using the safest material and all, and you really want to push that to the point, then you do need to expect this out of your alcohol and cigarettes also. So people, wake up. The hemp industry is where the money's going to be made, not in the cannabis sales. Those prices are going to fall off the map. And I appreciate all the nice videos of the plants and all the buds, but come on, wake up, people. We are really being stupid about this. It's time to wake up, get America back on the road, and support our Constitution. And I thank you for joining the Cannabis Corner.